All right, good morning, you guys. What's going on? It's day 8 of 35 intensive coding bootcamp for web development and junior full stack developer. So let's get in there and we'll talk to you afterwards.
All right, good morning, you guys. It is the day after day 8. This is day 9 of coding bootcamp. We're just waking up a little while ago, and we're going to make you a video from yesterday. It was a long day yesterday, so we learned a lot more about CSS, of course. And what did we get into yesterday? We talked about display properties as far as inline, block, and then inline block, and then none. So inline, just to recap, things sit next to each other, right? It doesn't separate and put it onto the next line. So inline, they go next to each other. Some examples of inline would be images, what else? Spans, anchors, and then blocks, they go after each other, right? They'll follow each other. Those examples would be headings, paragraphs, lists, and then some properties of, all right, let's actually continue on. So an inline block, what it changes is if something is normally in line, right, and you wanted to, let me see. So if something's in line and it goes next to each other. Okay, I'm just gonna read what the changes are. It changes two things compared to inline. The inline block allows width and height changes. So if you create something inline, then you lose the width function, I believe. And then it also allows margins and paddings to be respected, unlike inline. And then as far as compared to block, what an inline block does is it does not add line breaks like blocks do, so that elements can sit next to each other. Yes, we could mess around with that here in a little bit. And we also talked about display. The other option is none, and that removes it from the site entirely, and everything else moves over accordingly, as opposed to visibility hidden, which keeps the placeholder for where that used to be. So it's basically like it becomes invisible rather than not even being displayed. So invisible keeps the placeholder, the visibility hidden, and display none removes it from the site completely, at least to the end user. We had a nice challenge where we made a table that the top row, the links turn red when we hovered over it, and the next row we made it so where the text were one color, and then when you hover over it, the background color changed and the text remained the same color. And then we had another row where the text changed and the background color changed. So that was cool. We'll try to get in something like that here in a little bit. Talked about default order of layout determined by the HTML order. We talked about children sit on top of parents. So I guess what they're saying there is that if you have an outside tag and then inside that tag you have other tags, that will sit on top of the parents. Again, I'm guessing that they're either talking about visually, or they're talking about, I don't know. You guys can put that in the comments below. I'm forgetting. Anyway, what else? We talked about position, relative, absolute. We started messing around with pushing images over. So something to remember about relative versus absolute is relative adds the margin relative to where the original position of the element was. So if you say relative and go left, it's going to add a margin on the left side of whatever value you give it. So if you say position relative left 30 pixels, it will add margin of 30 pixels to the left of that image, so it will actually move to the right. So that might confuse you at first, but relative adds margin to the side that you're specifying with that many pixels that you specify. And absolute adds margin to its parent element, that you were, oh, sorry, it adds margin to its parent element. So basically, if you say absolute and then you say right 30 pixels, it will push your element over to the right side, and then it will add 30 pixels between the element and the right side of the parent. The element, you're taking the element out of the original position, and all other elements may move into the place. So let's give some examples. Let's see. You also have fixed position, which maintains place even while scrolling. All right, so I'll try to get to a bunch of stuff today, you guys. We don't have a whole lot of time, but I realized today that as I was waking up and drinking some tea, that as I was thinking about the videos, that sometimes I'm not able to get to everything that we go over in boot camp. So I don't want those of you who are considering boot camp, if you can get a good price on a boot camp or whatever, I don't want you guys to think that we're not learning more than I'm telling you. We're actually learning a ton of stuff, and sometimes I don't even have the ability to write the notes because we're doing so many examples and following along and trying out our own examples, that it's more experience based rather than note based always. All right, but let's go ahead and share our screen. All right, so we'll pull up Adam. You remember this little page that we made the other day, and let's go ahead and just mess around with it. So as you see, I've added a class to the image now, so that way we could mess around with that for a little bit. So images are inline, as we mentioned before, and H2s are block elements. So let's have some fun for a moment. We'll see if we can take this block element and pull it up to the same line as this mascot here, just by adding an H2 tag and making it no longer block. But let's actually just make it to this one alone. We'll even have some fun. We'll make it an ID, and we'll call it Adam words. All right. So that shouldn't change anything there yet. All right, so let's go over to our styles, and we'll say hashtag Adam words, and we shall say display, and we will say block. See what happens. Did it do anything? Why is that not working? What did I do wrong? See that? Right off to a bad start. Shouldn't it? It should have worked, shouldn't it have? What did I do wrong? Display. Oh my goodness. I really thought that would have worked. Let's try. Oh, why? Because it already is a block. We need to make it inline. All right. What did I do? Oh my goodness. There we go, you guys. All right, so it's early. It's early. So as you see, we changed what normally is a block element into an inline element, and it pulled it up to the last line. All right, so let's go ahead and get rid of that. That was just to show you guys. And let's see, is there anything we want to mess around with on the text itself? Yeah. I think we got into spans yesterday, but just to show you, we'll mess around for a second, just for a second, on spans. So a span is basically if you want to, in the middle of a sentence or in the middle of something, you want to add a style to the actual word. Let's try this. So we'll go span, and we'll say class equals span, we'll call it spanner, and we'll stick learned inside of our span box, and we'll remove that learned. Boom, give it space. Okay. We don't have to save that. We'll just go up here. All right, so we made it a class and we call it spanner. And let's go ahead and make it a text decoration underline. Let's go ahead and make it I don't know, color red. I don't know. Why not? Save that, see if it works. Boom. Okay, so as you see, in the middle of the line, we were able to change that one word. So once again, we'll just leave that for now. All right, so let's see if we can go on to something new. All right, let's go ahead and talk about position. So we got our image guy right there, right? And what we did, we had our mascot. So we went back over here to our index. We did create the class image, or IMG, where inside of our image brackets. So let's go back over to our styles, and we'll do image class, this position, and we'll first try relative. All right, so what do we say relative is? Relative is taking the mascot, and here's the parent, which is the whole page. And I'll read exactly what I said before because it was kind of a nice description. The relative adds margin relative to where the original position of the element is. Okay, so here's our element. If we want, we could even pull it up on our browser. All right, we got Chrome open still. All right, here we go. All right, and we'll inspect. And let's see. Here's our image. Okay, so there it is. There's the element. So you see it right there? That's the size of it. And we'll come back over to Atom, and we'll say we want to take this guy and we're going to add margins, right? Where we want to add them. We're going to add it to the left, and we're going to add, let's say, 50 pixels. Let's say 100. Boom. All right, so what are we doing? We're adding 100 pixels relative on the left side relative to where the original position is. So here's the original position. The left side, we're going to add margin of 100 pixels. It's going to push this guy over. Let's go ahead and save it and check it out. Did it work? Yeah, okay, so there you go. No problem. Now we'll do the same thing, and we'll make this absolute. So this time we're saying from the left side, no, is it? So absolute as margin to its parent element. So on the left side of the parent element, which is the page, we're adding 100 pixels. It sounds like it's going to be the same thing, but in the relative, everything else still had to maintain around it. Whereas when you do an absolute, you're going to see that this stuff pulls up underneath it. Let's try it. Okay, a little bit different positioning. So I guess maybe it just depends on padding or margins of the actual element and the page itself, the page defaults. You guys can tell me in the comments below. All right, and let's see if there's any other. Let's try none. And I don't know if it's going to still work. Oh no, that'd be display. Sorry, I was thinking about display. Fixed. I don't know. Let's see what happens with fixed. I don't know if you could leave a number in there like that if you put fixed. And I don't have anything to scroll anyway. All right, so let's get rid of this stuff. Just showing you guys, you could use position relative to change it using it one way, and then absolute will cause it to remain where it is. Give the margin for the parent on the side that you name, and then it will allow all the other elements, looks like, to fall underneath it. So anyway, sorry if I'm explaining it not so great, but what else? Okay, let's try to do a quick little table over here. How are we going to do this? Let's see. Where is... All right. Let's go ahead and underneath this list, we'll make a table. We'll give the table a class. Call it table. Give ourselves a table row. Give that a class. tr1. And we'll give ourselves table data cells. What did I do wrong? Nothing. Okay. And we'll copy this 5 times. No, 4 times. 1, 2, 3. Say, I know this is probably a dumb way to use a table. All right, so let's see. Let's give it a border. We used a border yesterday. Let's actually do that in our class. I don't know what I'm thinking about. I know you could probably do it inline, fine. All right, let's go ahead and move over now. And let's say table, background color. Let's say yellow. I don't necessarily know how good it's going to look. All right, so we can go back over here to our table we just made. We can copy this whole thing. Again, right here. This time we'll call this TR2. And so we have a great day, everyone. I know, kind of dumb, but And then let's go ahead and in our, so we got TR1, TR2s. All right, so let's go ahead and mess around. And we'll say we want to make TR1s let's say, hold on. Let's even go further and say table. We change our margin. Oh no, let's get padding. Let's say 40 pixels. See what that looks like. Did I do something wrong? All right, so with a little padding, we could probably do the same thing inside our, let's give it a border for the heck of it. Border. Not border radius. Border style. Solid. That's not really what I wanted. Anyway, let's move on. All right, so for TR1, we're gonna do oh, gosh, I'm having a hard time thinking. We'll do, I think it was, what was it? Gosh. All right, so we use, sorry guys, we use TD hover after our TR1s, and then we said color, and we'll just do red. And let's see if this works. Oh, there it is. All right. So as you see, when you hover over each one, it changes. Can we do a border inside this? I don't know what I'm doing wrong, you guys, as far as I'm trying to make a border inside. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, I put it inside the hover. That's funny. Sorry, that's wild. Okay, so we'll just go ahead and make that just a TR1. Does that even work? What did I do wrong? Anyway, all right, you guys. Well, I need to actually finish up here. We're gonna. You guys can tell me what I'm doing wrong in this, but yeah. So as you can see, you can do hover stuff. You can do moving over positions, displays. Anyway, day 9 today, and we'll be back in a little while. We'll tell you what we learned.